All right, here we go. Been a little minute, but we back in it. I want to welcome everybody back to another edition of Gen Sports Corner for June 11th, 2023. It's been a little bit of, I've taken a little bit of a hiatus. Had some family issues going on. For those who know, um, you know what I've been taking care of recently, but I want to let you guys know, I'm taking care of what I need to take care of behind the scenes, and I'm back on my grind. So, a lot of things happen in the meantime, especially with the Phillies, and I haven't had a chance to really talk about them that much this year because I've been wrapping up the PhD and finishing up the dissertation, and I've been pretty much locked in on boxing for the most part and the NFL draft, but I haven't really got a chance to touch on baseball since spring training. So let's go ahead and look at the Phillies and where they're at because we're coming up on the July 30th trade deadline. It's going to be here before we know it. It's only June 11th, but it comes up quick. And there's a couple of names that are on the board that I think could really help the Phillies out, one in particular. But let's go ahead and look at the Phillies and where they're at right now. Second best team in baseball. We're sitting at the top of the NL with a 45-20 record. We're only a half game back of the Yankees for the best record in baseball. So the Phillies are 45-20. The New York Yankees are 47-21. And the Orioles have also been very, very good this year, along with the Cleveland Guardians. And the Orioles, the Yankees, and the Phillies are the only three teams that are above 500 that have a run differential of plus 100. So they're really on fire. So that lets you know that not only is the hitting good, but the pitching is good. I mean, that's obvious, but for some, that aren't as familiar with baseball, that differential that speaks to how good the pitching has been for the Phillies with Suarez and Wheeler and Nola and that bullpen with Alvarado, as well as the hitting, obviously. Even with the injuries, we've still been hitting very well. Trey Turner has been out, and then you lost Brandon Marsh for the past week or two with the pulled hamstring, and now we have another injury with JT Realmuto. He was dealing with knee soreness this entire season, and he finally had to get scheduled for surgery recently. So he had to get pulled out of that game in London the other night, I think the second one in the ninth inning, because the knee was bothering him too much. So word on the street is he may be out around a month or so. Hopefully that's the timeline. We will see. These things are never certain, but hopefully it's not too serious. It's just a minor procedure to get his knee cleaned out. Officially, they're calling it a meniscectomy. So obviously, I don't know if they're going to repair or replace the meniscus in the right knee, but for a month timeline, I would assume that they're just going in to fix a tear or clean out scar tissue or debris if there's really a lot of inflammation or small minor tear there. I'm not an MD by any means, but hopefully it's not anything too serious and we get him back in short time. But you look at the Phillies and where they're at going into this trade deadline, and one name that's coming up is my man from the White Sox. What's his name? Robert Jr. What's his first name? Luis Robert Jr. Look, I'm telling you, man, this dude is on the rise. He's only 25, 26 years old, coming off of an All-Star year last year, and this year he was injured earlier on, and he got put on the injured list, I think around April 5th or 6th, with I think he had like right hip tightness, and it didn't clear up in the time frame that they thought it would. I think they said 2 months, and I think he might have been on track for that, but he probably was, impatient. He wanted to get back to play, especially when you're that young and all you have is your sport. You want to be out there as much as you can. People would think that just because these guys make millions of dollars that they're just dogging it out there. No, these dudes, you don't get to this point unless you have a strong love for the game, and you don't stay here unless you're passionate. You can get here having a strong love for the game that fades, but you only stay here if you're passionate about it. And he seems like one of those guys. And in his return, June 5th, I believe, he came off the IL, and what did he do? He set it off again with a 448-foot moonshot. So this guy, he got power in that bat. He's good in the outfield, and he's going to bring you defense and he's going to bring you offense. Two things that any team would want, but two things you desperately need, especially with the injuries you have right now. And also with Nick Castellanos, no offense, not playing up to the level that we expected out of him from last year when he was having an all-star year. So you're able to kill a couple birds with two stones with one stone, excuse me. Even when Brandon Marsh comes back from the IL, you have Brandon Marsh in left field. You have Brandon Marsh in left field, Rojas in center field, and then possibly Luis Robert Jr. in right field. And then you could vary up how you want to have them defensively, but that instantly boosts your team and allows you a lot of different things in the lineup. And speaking of lineup, I want to go ahead and look at the lineup. We have a game against the Boston Red Sox tonight, back in action, and I'm looking at the lineup, and right now, let's see who we have. We have Schwarber leading off, then Castellanos in the 2 spot, Harper 3rd, Bohm 4th, Stott 5th, Sosa 6th, Dahl 7th. Yeah, he's been a great story so far, actually. Garrett Stubbs at 8, and then Johan Rojas at 9. Now, I'm looking at this lineup, and let me know in the comments what you guys think about Kyle Schwarber as a leadoff hitter. Are you for it or are you against it? Are you old school or are you an outside-of-the-box thinker? Are you in agreement with the way that they're setting this lineup, or do you disagree with how they have Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff spot? Because I'm of the school of thought, I always want somebody who, one, can get on base. That's first and foremost as a leadoff hitter. Your on-base percentage has to be high. That's what you're asking for. And then second, I want him to be fast. He has one, which would be the on-base percentage. He gets a lot of walks. So his OBP is always pretty high, but he doesn't have no speed. And then this year, the slugging percentage is down. So the OPS, which is the on-base percentage plus slugging percentage, that combined stat is lower than expected. So typically a good on-base percentage would be about, above average would be 34% of the time, or .340. You're getting on base 34% of the time. A very, very good on base percentage would be 37% of the time, and a great on base percentage would be 40% of the time or above. So right now, Kyle Schwarber, he's getting on base about 35.9% of the time, if I'm not mistaken. 35.7% of the time he's getting on base. But his slugging percentage is under 500. Hell, it's not even just under 500, which is really the benchmark for power hitters, in my opinion. But it's under 400, which is not good for a power hitter. It's not good, period, but it's very bad for a power hitter. It means you're not hitting home runs, you're not hitting triples, and you're possibly not hitting doubles. So I'm looking at his OPS, and it's 748. That's cool, but here's my thing. If he's not getting on base, we're expecting him to hit a lot of home runs or a lot of extra base hits, and he's not doing that. So my argument, my angle has always been, even when he is hitting well, is really dependent upon what everybody else in the lineup is doing, because he doesn't have the speed. If the people behind him are not getting on base and or hitting and driving in runs, then he becomes a liability. If they are driving in runs, then not only is it a moot point, but it actually works in your favor, because now your leadoff hitter is all of a sudden a power hitter on top of just being a guy that gets on base and gets a lot of walks. So like I said, right now he's not really getting on. He's not really slugging the ball the way that I would like him as a leadoff hitter if he's not going to have the wheels to be able to steal bags. He only has 4 stolen bases. And I don't know how many times he's been caught trying to steal bases, but they don't send him. So I'm looking at other guys' OBPs or on base percentages, and the two that make sense to me, who should be in the one spot, one is injured, and that's Brandon Marsh. He gets on base 34.4% of the time, and Bryson Stott, he gets on base 34.2% of the time. On top of that, their walk rate Walk rate for Bryson Stott, he walks about 15% of the time, 14.5 to 15% of the time, and Kyle Schwarber gets a walk about 19.7% of his at bats. Okay, that's fine. But my thing is Bryson Stott is his strikeout rate is much lower than Kyle Schwarber's, and I'll do the calculations right now. So Kyle Schwarber has 82 strikeouts in 238, 82 strikeouts in 238 at bats. So he strikes out about 34.4% of the time. All right, 34.4% of the time. And then Bryson Stott strikes out. He struck out 29 times in 194 at bats. So he's striking out about 15% of the time. So you do the math for me. 34% compared to 15% in terms of how often you're striking out. I just don't understand. And he always struck out a lot. He was always a, if he wasn't hitting home runs or getting a double, he was striking out or walking. That's pretty much who Kyle Schwarber is. And I was looking at a Reddit sub forum, and somebody compared him to, was it Adam Dunn, who used to play for the Reds way back in the day. They were going through some stats. I don't know some of the more advanced stats, but I was thinking of Adam Dunn from the Reds. You know, we're going back to the what, mid to late 2000s when he was really lighting it up, and he does remind me of Aaron Dunn in a lot of ways. He doesn't have good defense. He's a liability out there, but you're not really asking him to play that. He's a DH. He hits home runs all the time. Aaron Dunn, he used to crank him over the fence, but when he wasn't hitting home runs, he was pretty much non-existent. When he was hitting home runs, he was like Babe Ruth. But when he wasn't hot and hitting home runs, you're like, yo, where did this dude go? And that's what we're dealing with right now with Kyle Schwarber. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. Would you keep Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff spot, or would you take him out and put somebody like Bryson Stott or Brandon Marsh in there until Trey Turner can come back from injury? Because Trey Turner had the best on-base percentage on the team. He has to be up there in terms of on-base percentage for all of baseball, actually, at 39.2% of the time him getting on base. And he was hitting for average. So that's my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. And should they go after Luis Robert Jr.? Word on the street is that the White Sox are asking for a stupid, ridiculous return for Luis Robert Jr., something similar to what the Padres gave up for Juan Soto when they made that trade with the Nationals back in 2022. And they gave up a lot of pieces, including Mackenzie Gore, who's probably their pitcher of the future at this point, along with some other guy. I don't remember him, but they obviously didn't win that trade because Juan Soto he's with the Yankees, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, when I looked at MLB The Show, when I traded for Juan Soto, he was on the Yankees. So, point being, he ain't in with the Padres no more. So, it seems fair to say that the Nationals definitely won that trade, like without a shadow of a doubt. But I don't think that the Phillies should get into desperation mode and overpay for Luis Robert Jr., even though it would be tempting to do so. But I don't think they will. I think the White Sox will have to come down on their price at some point. And if not, then you just move on and try to add another piece. It doesn't have to be somebody of his caliber, but bring in somebody who can hit well. Okay, because right now you already have defense with Johan Rojas and Brandon Marsh. But right now, Nick Castellanos, he doesn't give you defense or offense at this point. So, if anything, even if you couldn't get the defense that you want in a potential trade prospect, get the offense. Get a guy that can hit, and then put him in right field. Right field, unless you're dealing with a lot of left-handed hitters in the lineup, the ball is not going to be coming over there too much for you to be concerned about his defensive deficiencies. Left field is where you have to worry about, because most batters For those not familiar with baseball, they're right-handed batters, and typically when you bat in the major leagues, when you bat in baseball, you're really looking to pull the ball, meaning when you make contact with the ball and you're a right-handed batter. Let me turn this way. Yeah, right-handed batter. So you guys see me as a right-handed batter. You're looking for the ball to come right down here, and you're looking to pull it to your left, to left field. You don't. There's a time and place where you push the ball to right field or try to push it to the gap in right field, but typically you're trying to take it to straightaway center or pull it to your left, to your weak side shoulder. So if you're a right-handed batter and your right hand's dominant, you're trying to pull the ball to your weak side shoulder, which would be your left shoulder, and take it on out the park. So if you're going to trade for a guy, make sure you get offense. If you can get defense on top of it with a guy like Luis Robert Jr. and get a guy who's coming into his prime on top of it, yeah, go ahead and get him. But if you can't, make sure you get a guy that can crack at the plate, and then you fill in the rest later, because you're going to get guys coming back on defense. Mind you, Trey Turner hasn't done it much, but they put him in center field from time to time, so you can move pieces around if need be, but you're going to need, in my opinion, that consistency on offense. And Luis Robert Jr., he also, what else does he do? He gets on base. So another reason to move Kyle Schwarber in the lineup. If anything, I wouldn't have Kyle Schwarber batting 1. I would have him batting 2. I don't understand why they don't have him batting 2nd. First and second in the lineup, you're going to get a lot of at-bats. The third spot, not as much, but, more than the later spots, 6 and beyond. But 4 and 5 hitters right after that, they are the linchpin of your offense. Okay? So that's why you have Bohm, and then let's see how they have this set up. So they have Kyle Schwarber, Castellanos, Harper, Bohm, Stott. See, again, me personally, I wouldn't have Harper in the 3 spot. I would have him in the 4 or the 5 spot. I would have Bohm and Harper in the 4 or the 5 spot, because I want them driving in runs, having more people on base to drive in runs. So ideally, I would have, if everybody was healthy, Trey Turner leading off, Kyle Schwarber or Brandon Marsh second, and then let's say Trey Turner first, Kyle Schwarber second, Bryson Stott third, and then fourth I would have Bryce Harper, and then fifth I would have Alec Bohm, and I'll tell you why. So first batter, Trey Turner, he's getting on base and he has wheels. Nothing else needs to be said, and he's been hitting for power this year. I mean, he gives you everything Kyle Schwarber has been giving you and more. So that's the leadoff hitter. Like, the fact that there's even a discussion about this on sports radio in Philly and amongst fans is just ridiculous to me, but that's a discussion for another day. Second, you would have Kyle Schwarber. He's able to have a guy. Trey Turner's going to get on regardless, and he's going to protect the guy after him. So they don't want to walk Trey Turner, but he's going to get on, whether that be by patience, whether it be by bunting, whether it be by just making contact very well. He gets on base, and now you have a guy who's able to put pressure on the base paths with his legs. And now Kyle Schwarber, when he gets up there, now there's even more pressure on the pitcher to throw him strikes with a guy like or fastballs with a guy like Trey Turner on base, because if you get breaking ball heavy, Trey Turner's off to the races. Hell, he might even steal third if you just want to go throw breaking balls to Kyle Schwarber, which is the way you attack him. I mean, Kyle Schwarber is known for being able to make contact with breaking balls outside of the zone, but that is still how you want to attack a guy like Schwarber. And you can't do it the same way when you have a guy on base, especially a guy who's as spooky as Trey Turner or even Bryson Stott. If you get Bryson Stott or Brandon Marsh on base, they both have wheels. You have that pressure on the pitcher now. Now, in my opinion, that unlocks the Kyle Schwarber that is actually going to be dominant as a I guess, quote unquote, lead off hitter. He's not leading off the lineup, but at the 2 spot, he's the first person who gets a chance to really do damage, because now you have a guy on base ahead of you. And then after that, since Kyle Schwarber gets on base all the time, and now it's going to be easier for him with a guy on base, now that OBP is going to go up because they're going to have to pitch him honest. Now let's say you get 2 guys on base, Schwarber and Turner, if he hasn't already hit a double or home run already. Now Bryson Stott in that 3 spot, he's going to get a lot better. He's going to get better pitches to hit than he would in the 6 or 7 spot, because now you got guys on base ahead of you, and they don't want to walk you and let Bryce Harper or Alec Bohm come up to the plate. Like I said, I would have Bohm in the Bryce Harper or Alec Bohm in that 4 spot coming up. All right, and then you can choose whether you want Bryce in the 4th or the 5th spot. But those 2 guys, they're going to be able to bring in those first 3 guys, and I picked those first 3 guys because they get on base well, and they don't strike out all the time. Right, and a guy like Schwarber who strikes out all the time, if you put somebody ahead of him like a Trey Turner, then you effectively buffer yourself against that deficiency that he has. So that's the way I would play it out. Let me know what you guys think, but I would be going after Luis Robert Jr. if I was them.